Thank you everyone who's here for joining us. We really appreciate it. I am Frank Holland from CNBC, and for the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to talk all about cybersecurity, your business, how to protect yourself, what to be aware of, and what you can do long-term to protect your business from a cybersecurity issue. And right now, I'm joined by Larry Whiteside. He is the Chief Technology Officer of CyberClan. Larry, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time and especially your insight.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. So I want to remind everybody, if you see on the right-hand side of the screen, that's where you can put your questions. If you have any comments, if we're talking about something you might need a quick explainer, please feel free to put a few words in that chat. We are looking at it. We're paying attention to it. But just to kick things off, Larry, if you don't mind, I'm going to start off with a question for you. A recent CNBC Momentive survey found that 56% of small business owners, they were not concerned about a cyber attack, not at all. I know you believe 100% of small business owners should be concerned about a cyber attack. Can you give us the sense of the landscape right now for small businesses when it comes to cybersecurity?
Yes, the reality is small businesses are at more risk than ever. Attackers, the threat actors out there that are causing these cyber breaches are recognizing no one is above, no one is too small for a cyber attack, because for them, it's all about money. And as a small business, the ability for you to be put out of business by even a small cyber attack and what that can do to you financially, to your family financially, can be devastating.
Right. I would imagine we see the impact that cyber attacks have on big companies like hotels, Microsoft Outlook, for example, another situation where cyber hackers, if you will, were able to make a big impact on a very large company that has a lot of cybersecurity. I know you have some tips for small business owners. Could you share them and kind of explain what the steps that people need to take beyond being tech experts?
Right. So first off, that's a great misnomer, right? To be cyber safe, to be cyber aware, and to be cyber secure, you don't have to be a technology expert, right? There's some very basic things that you as a business owner can do. So number one, if you're utilizing technology, have it set to auto update. When you turn it on, you set it up, it's going to walk you through and ask you questions about updating. Leave it automatic. Do not change the basic configurations of most of those devices, because when you buy them, they are set to do that. The second thing is actually get an outside expert to come in. You don't need someone to hire someone full time. If you just have someone come in, right, a few hours a year to look at your environment, to do some basic updating, to just ensure that you've taken some of the basic steps, it'll actually save you so much time, effort, and money in eventually possibly dealing with a cyber attack. And then the last thing is really about cyber liability insurance. It is a new thing that's happened in the last 10 years where, if you think about insurance, we all have flood insurance and fire insurance and car insurance and all of the different types of insurance. Well, cyber liability insurance helps ensure that, hey, in the event, right, and we are in a not if, but when type of state with these, if it happens and when it happens, I'll have some sort of protection, just like I would, if I get into a car accident, if I get sick and go to the hospital.
Sorry, Larry, I'm still on mute. I'm trying to mute when you're talking. I know one of the other tips is just to understand that something is going to happen at some point. When you say something, can you kind of give us a better description of what that something is? Will it be a full-fledged cyber attack? Will it be someone just trying to enter your system?
Yeah, today it's really about tricking end users, right? Tricking small businesses, tricking people in general into doing something that they don't normally do. So you get an email from somebody that you think is a supplier. You get an email from somebody that you think is a friend telling you to open a picture or to download this file. Well, you happen to download that file or click on whatever that link is, and it then encrypts your computer and any computers that you may have in the vicinity on the same wireless network, right? Or you get an access to an email and it tells you to go to this website, and you think that you're going to Microsoft's website because the email you thought you got from the Microsoft help desk, and you put your credentials in, and then they take your username and password and begin trying to use it other places. And so it's some of those basic things that attackers do that really trick the novice, right? The everyday person who is not a cyber expert, is not a technology expert, and doesn't know some of the basic things to look for in these fake emails.
Obviously, cost is something a lot of small business owners are very concerned with. I want to share with the people attending some stats from our CNBC Momentum Small Business Confidence Survey. So 67% of small business owners, about 2/3, said they're spending about the same on cybersecurity they were a year ago. 22% say they're spending more, and actually 8% say they're spending less. Let's kind of focus on that 2/3. A year ago, is the landscape the same as it is today? Should people be spending about the same, or should they be spending more, or have technology and tools advanced so much that it's okay to be spending less?
So the reality is the threats have gone up, right? If you look in the news, you watch the news, the number of cyber attacks is on the rise. The amount of ransomware payments has increased exponentially over the last year. And so theoretically, if you align all those things together, people should be spending more, or at least paying more attention to it. So does you doing more mean you have to spend more money? Not necessarily, but you should be more aware, right, of the things that are happening inside your organization. You should have the similar or better controls in place today than you did a year ago, because the likelihood for you as a small business is increasing day by day by day.
You also mentioned bringing in some outside help. What does that look like in a practical way? I think for a lot of people, cybersecurity or cyber help is a little bit intimidating. Can you give us a sense of maybe what percentage of your revenues you might want to spend on cybersecurity or some of that outside consulting? Is there any guideline that people should at least have as a starting point? Because obviously there's some businesses that hold more personal information. It may be more important. Other businesses that have a different model.
Right. So you bring up a good point. So if you are a regulated entity, right, the fines that you're going to deal with in the event of a cyber breach are astronomical. And so you need to sort of weigh your cost against that. But there's no real number. There's no magic sweet spot as it relates to percentage of your overall revenue that you should spend. But a good practical way to think about it is, what is my risk, right? What do I potentially risk losing in the event that I have a cyber attack? Do I risk losing a $1 million business? Do I risk losing a $100,000 business? What is that? And then try and figure out what factor of that you're willing to invest, right? Because investing in cyber is a thing. It's investing. It's not just spending money. You're investing in the protection to prevent, right? You're investing it to prevent, right, the potential cost of a breach, right? Because when you look at the cost of breaches for the large companies, they're spending hundreds, if not millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to potentially thwart and respond to these breaches. So as a small business, you've just got to get ahead of that and think of what is it that you're willing to invest to mitigate the risk based on the cost of the risk that you're dealing with.
You know, it's funny that you use the word mitigate. So you're basically saying there's no way to completely prevent it or avoid it completely.
No, so prevention is, if you think about the analogy of the bear, you and your friend, right? You don't have to be faster than the bear, you just have to be faster than your friend. It's the same thing in cyber in reality, right? You don't have to be, it's not about being foolproof, right? And having a bulletproof vest on and, preventing being shot. It's about ensuring you've got at least enough protection to make it not worthwhile to deal with you, and that they're going to go after another business.
Got it. So I don't know if you see here, Larry, we got a bunch of questions for you. You know what? I think one person's referencing something that you said about what percentage of, or the question I asked you about what percentage of revenue should go towards cybersecurity. So this is Jay Swaminathan. I hope I'm saying that correctly. He's asking, what's a good rule of thumb number for what percentage? I mean, I know you said there's no magic number, but
there's no magic number. So here's what we tend to do. So whatever you spend on technology, right? So whatever you spend on technology, we tend to say that your cyber spend should be somewhere between 7 and 15% of what you spend on technology as a whole. So, and when I say technology, it's not just physical, it's your applications and all of the things that you utilize, right, to run your business. So if you've got, HR software, if you've got whatever the different software and apps are, plus the technology, that entire spend, like somewhere between 7 and 15% of that should be spent on cyber at a minimum.
All right. I have a few more questions for you. Ade Odutola, Managing Director of Solvitor Systems. His question is, or her question, excuse me, is there any correlation between the increased number of cyber insurance payouts and the increased instances of brazen ransomware attacks?
Oh, they directly correlate, right? Again, attackers are recognizing no entity is too small. So if you think about it in this way, if you're throwing darts and you're trying to get a bullseye, is it easier to throw one dart at a time or throw 1 million darts? and hope that at least one of them hits the bullseye, right? It's throw a million darts. And so that's what they're doing. And by throwing a million darts, and it's really, email is one of the, we call it business email compromise, is the largest new attack vector that's happening. And so if you get one, right, that's all it takes. It just takes one. And the level of effort the attackers have to go through to actually, run the attack is minimal.
Got it. We have another question. This one is from Leah Johnson. What is the best protection for small businesses working from home?
Oh, that's a really good question. So, a lot of people have been driven home because from a revenue standpoint, they can't afford, an office or wherever they may have been working from before. So for small businesses working from home, a couple of good basic protections. One, if you don't already do it, have your work stuff and your personal stuff running on separate Wi-Fi networks at home, right? You want to segment them so that in the event that something your kids do, something your spouse does, right, it doesn't necessarily impact that, right? And that could be illegally streaming movies or any of those types of nefarious things, right? That won't potentially impact that because they're on separate networks and you can have them not touch each other. And there's tons of things that you can read online on how to do that pretty basically. Another is just have some basic things like antivirus or malware protection in place. Those are just two really basic, really easy things that any regular person can go do just through a quick Google search.
All right, we got a longer question here from John Pierre. A number of my clients have suffered the loss of access or total loss to their websites, which they've invested significant money. Thankfully, I had backups to their websites and was able to restore them. However, they incurred costs for restoration and their sales or SEO suffered during the downtime. What is your advice for small business on key steps in protecting their websites today?
Yeah, so this is a good one, right? So small businesses typically outsource their websites to some other entity. So when you are picking where you're going to store your website and who's going to host it, you need to be looking at what security controls do they have in place. Unfortunately, most small businesses don't do that because they don't think to do that. But that's one of the largest questions that you should be asking is, how do you protect against a denial of service, right? That's where somebody is basically flooding the website so that it can't receive any real traffic, right? How do you protect against cyber attacks? And there are a number of cyber attacks against websites that exist out there. You can go look at a thing called OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Forum, where they basically tell you these are the top 10 types of attacks that happen against web sites. And ask them, these web hosting companies, what do you do? Because at the end of the day, it's your business that they are protecting, and they need to be able to answer that question.
So Larry, we're almost out of time, but it's another stat from our CNBC Momentum survey that I wanted to talk to you about. Among the small business owners that we surveyed who have never been or who have ever been the victim of a ransomware attack, 46% said they did not pay the ransom, 27% said they had insurance that paid, and then 24% said they paid. For small business owners that, like the question we just had, do they might believe there's a correlation between these cyber attacks and the payouts, and they don't want to pay? If you decide you don't want to pay, how much, I guess, risk are you taking on? What are your chances of getting back to normal? I mean, where do you start if you decide you don't want to pay?
So honestly, if you decide you don't want to pay, you should have started before. Because if you decide you didn't want to pay and you haven't prepared prior to that, you could theoretically lose everything. To the question that I think it was Jay may have asked earlier, right, about what his clients were dealing with, and he said he was able to recover them from backup. Deciding to pay is based on how much infrastructure do you have in place and how much preparation did you put in ahead of time to ensure that, okay, yes, I lost what I have right now, but I have backups and I have these other portions of what I lost that I can restore from. A lot of times what attackers are doing now is they're actually also jumping in and encrypting your backups. So not only did they encrypt your primary things, but they're encrypting your backups so you don't even have that. They're also starting to extract your data, where they'll do data exfiltration and say, hey, listen, you're going to pay, or else I'm going to put this data that I stole from you out on the internet for everybody to see. So at the end of the day, not paying is a business-based decision, and it's largely dependent upon how much they've actually gotten, how much they've encrypted, and how much preparation you did before it actually happened.
So we have actually two questions, but they're pretty similar, from Leah Johnson and Abby Carlton. They're both asking about VPNs. Are they worth having? How well do they work as a form of protection for small business owners who are working from home? And are they actually a good method of insulating a business against a cyber attack?
So VPNs are a good mechanism, but one that's even better is multi-factor authentication. Because I'll give you a scenario. So early on, you heard me mention you get an email from what you think is the Microsoft help desk, you put your credentials out there, and now this person has your credentials. That VPN is not going to protect that person who just stole your credentials from utilizing it to access the VPN and get into your corporate environment, right? Whatever your business is. So a better protection is really about having multi-factor authentication. So in the event that your password and your username get stolen, you've got this additional form factor, right? Whether it be text that you get, whether it be something like Google or Microsoft Authenticator, that enables, that says that's, you have that. It's something you physically have, so that even when your credentials get compromised, you still have this third factor that won't allow them to negatively use it.
A lot of information shared here today, Larry. We really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for your questions. I don't know if you can see on the right-hand side, Krista's asking for everyone. Number one, she's saying thank you for your great questions, but she's also asking for your feedback on the event and on this breakout session. Please feel free to give any ways we can improve it. Larry, we appreciate your time, all your insight, your expertise. I'm sure there's a lot of questions left. We're going to welcome you guys back to the main stage, but Larry, I'm sure you're findable on social media, LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
People have more questions or looking for some of your services. And we appreciate everybody's time. Enjoy the event. Small business owners are really the backbone of this country. We appreciate all of you and all that you do. And best of luck with your cybersecurity, your sales, and everything else. Have a great day.
Thank you.